Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? Really like that. You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Monday to you here on the Film Guy Network. We are cracking open hour number 2 of our 3-hour set here, as we typically do on Monday evenings. You guys know what it is. Georgia plays on Saturday. We give you Sunday reactions on Sunday. I break the tape down Monday at 7 o'clock. Tonight we started at 6:45 because I had so much daggum tape to break down. And then at 7 o'clock, we start bringing you these film observations. We start bringing you guests. We start our week of hourly live content here on the network. So make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like and subscribe, and rate and reviewing. All that good stuff up front. And I also want to give a quick shout out real quick, Kirby, to our friends at Prize Picks. Promo code Brooks. Today you'll get a 100% deposit match over there. That means you put up to $100 in. You will get instantly matched $100 using promo code Brooks. Also want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at the Athletic Collection. All these posters you see hanging around the studio today can be yours if you head over to the Athletic Collection and purchase those. Those are an NIL play as well. So a portion of those revenues will go directly into the pockets of those players. Why is Brooks so in a rush to get rid of the sponsors and get rid of all that stuff and ask you to support? Because we got film notes right off the top before we get our boy Murray loaded up and in here on the network tonight. So let's talk about it. Georgia beat Georgia Tech for the 12th time in a row at Bobby Dodd Stadium. I believe the 7th time in a row was the last time they beat them, 2015?
2016.
So Kirby Smart's first year. Only second career loss for that guy in, 12 matchups, 5 as a player, 7 as a coach? 8 is, took 1 year off because of COVID. So only one loss in that guy's career. Huh?
Did they win in 2005?
Oh, that's a good question with him as a
I think they had to
assistant.
have because they won the SEC championship that year. So
Probably. Yeah, that checks out. Definitely did. Anyways, so just dominating Georgia Tech normally. Didn't quite dominate them on the scoreboard Saturday, and there was a lot of reasons for that. Let's get into it. Let's start on the offensive side of the football. I thought despite the fact that the game plan was as simple as we expected, I thought they dominated. Look, on the offensive side of the football, I talked to some people Friday afternoon, Friday evening, on into Saturday morning, and look, the game plan was simple. We're going to go down there, we're going to run the rock, and we're going to come back to Atlanta the next week as healthy as humanly possible. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to reinvent any wheels. We're not going to try anything out. We're not going to find out what might work next. But no, offensively, we are going to go out and lean on these jokers for 4 quarters because we can, and that's exactly what they did. And if you evaluate the offensive performance like that, okay, you would have probably left extremely satisfied with the performance of the offensive unit, if you will. They played physically, and they dominated at the line of scrimmage, as you would expect them to. Georgia's offensive line, whether it be Amarius Mims throwing a dude in the sideline, whether it be Oscar Delp finishing blocks on Saturday, Georgia's front 6 played extremely physical and pushed those dudes around. And not only that, they handled run blitz really, really well on Saturday. Georgia Tech did not just sit back and say, all right, well, they're just going to run it on us today. No. Midway through the first quarter, on into the second quarter, Georgia Tech started plugging Mike and Sam right in both side A gaps. So they basically had all 6 gaps, if you will, the 3 to the left of the center, the 3 to the right of the center, accounted for by human bodies. Georgia still reset the line of scrimmage, found ways to create avenues for guys like Kendall Milton to run and run successfully and explosively. And I want to talk about him because I talked about Georgia for 9 minutes yesterday. And in 9 minutes of conversation about this football game, I failed to mention Kendall Milton. And I felt bad about it afterwards because he obviously had a career football game. And it wasn't just, the explosive runs or whatever. He, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, has ran the ball extremely decisively. And what does that mean for him specifically? Well, he's 6'2", he's 230 pounds, and he is a bitch to tackle. I mean, it is awful. It really, really hurts. So when you have a running back that's running confidently and decisively like that, it means he's up to top speed and he's running physically way faster than you are prepared to as a defense. So not only has he morphed into your lead back, which for the first 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks of the season, we were all on here, singing the praises of Daijun Edwards. And Daijun Edwards is a really, really great back. He is, don't get me wrong. But when the things are clicking like they have been lately on the offensive line, your best and most explosive back will remain Kendall Milton because of what I'm talking about. Because when he sees a hole and he sticks his foot in the gas and goes, it's already 10 yards. It's 10 yards even if you get an arm on him. We saw multiple times Saturday where, linebackers might be, having an arm tackle on him or might have met him in a hole. Next thing you know, hey, it's 4, 5, 6, 7 yards after contact. He looks extremely confident, and not only confident, but I think he is reading and delivering blocks exceptionally well as well. It's not just, ooh, big hole, let's go. And there's some of that. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of that last Saturday on that film. But there's also some finesse. We're going to deliver some blocks on counter. We're going to find the one little sliver of grass here, and then we're going to accelerate and be a bitch to tackle out in open space. Thought Kendall had his best game on top of the offensive line, creating the most, the biggest gaps and holes we've seen all year. And again, I think that's more conducive to Kendall's running style, whereas Daijun's running style is much more reparative, if you will. It repairs the mistakes of others, where, hey, if the mistakes aren't there, we want someone that can maximize the opportunities. That's exactly what Kendall has done over the last several weeks. Again, while this offensive line unit has played exceptional over the last couple of weeks, I thought Oscar Delp blocked really, really well on Saturday. If you go back and watch that tape like we just did for the last 90 minutes, you will notice immediately almost every single explosive run, you will see number 4 downfield still engaged with his guy running his feet. He is an exceptional athlete. I don't think, he's been called Brock Bowers' stand-in by every national media analyst that's called a football game over the last month for this football team. But he's an exceptional athlete. I don't think people really remember what the scouting profile of this dude was or is, because people look at Brock Bowers and they're like, wow, superstar, a superhuman freak. Look at Superman out there doing all that crazy stuff. He's 6'4", he's 225 pounds, he runs sub 4.5. He's such a freak. And then you're like, oh, number 4 is 6'4.5", 250 pounds, and he runs like 4.55. Oh, that guy's a freak too. Yeah, you're getting to see that, maybe not as a ball catcher or as a threat in open space just yet, but I see it when he's out moving around and blocking humans out in space, particularly humans that are much, much smaller than him. He unzips his feet really well, and he stayed on his feet out in space really well the last couple of weeks. So that I thought he had the best game of his season from a blocking standpoint on Saturday night. And that was important going into, the rest of the slate where, dude, in December and in January, it's about running the football and running the football successfully. Let's talk about maybe some negatives offensively here. Since Tate's gone down, we have noticed Xavier Truss be asked and required to move back into offensive guard. And if you've been maybe a newcomer on this channel, you just learned about and heard about us talking about this for the first time this year. But if you've been with us since September, we've been talking about and showing you clips of Xavier Truss at offensive guard playing way out over his toes, way too far extended, and having people really rip him down and having him fall off blocks and end up on his face on the ground. And we saw not a lot of it, but we saw a good bit of it on Saturday. Even the holding call that called back Kendall Milton's touchdown pass, that's because he was playing out a little bit over his toes. It was a little bit too far out extended. The guy gets outside of his framework of his body. He holds. We get a touchdown call back as an offense. Those types of things are popping back up on tape. And I'll be honest, I love the idea that Georgia makes the old guys lose their job. It's been Kirby's MO for a long time. If you're a member of this football program that was recruited and developed, you stuck around, you're here, you're a contributing factor, you're playing meaningful snaps, you're going to get every opportunity to, I'm not going to say lose your job, but be replaced by someone who is ultimately more talented than you. Okay, they may not overwhelmingly overperform you, but they are more talented than you. And eventually, in games in December and in January, I'm not talking about Kirby, I'm talking about me. I would value the superior talent over the guy who is just experienced. Because in the fourth quarter, when somebody from Alabama is lined up across from Micah Morris, and I know, hey, Micah, you got to drive that 3 technique off the ball. That's all we got to worry about. This one play to convert this one first down so we can score one more touchdown to win this football game. Dude, talent will overweigh experience. Talent will overweigh basically anything in that moment, because it is a game of one-on-ones this late in the season. When the margins are really, really tight, give me the talented. And for that reason, I want to see Dylan Fairchild and Micah Morris at the guard positions if Tate Ratledge is not available Saturday to start this football game. Okay, that's what I want to see. I don't know if it's what we're going to see. I don't think it's going to cost you a football game if that's not what you see. All right, I'm just telling you, from watching it for 12 weeks now, 12 games, in my opinion, Xavier Truss is a lesser than option right now at guard than he is at tackle or than Dylan Fairchild or Micah Morris is. And look, here's the deal. If you want to rotate him, if you want to keep him fresh, put Xavier Truss at left tackle, because the drop-off from Ernest Green to Xavier Truss is far less, in my opinion, than the drop-off between Micah, Dylan, and Xavier at the interior position. And guess who can get to the ball carrier or the quarterback way faster? The guy who's closest to it, okay? Offensive guard play is vital in these next several weeks of college football. Am I working? Yeah, Jamie, I'm on television right now. What do you mean am I working? So, yeah, I want to see when the game comes down to one-on-ones, I want to see the best 11 out there. And that's my opinion. Let's get Xavier Truss out to left tackle if you want to keep guys fresh. Dylan Bell continues to be a real problem for defenses because of the variety in which he can attack you, okay, and the variety of different ways that he can stress you and force your defense to control what it is that he's going to do. We saw another 3rd and 11 back shoulder fade, not a back shoulder fade, but a 50-50 go ball that he got on top of a Georgia Tech corner. Just didn't quite finish the catch. And we saw obviously a reverse. We saw a tunnel screen that he almost took to the door. Bottom line, he's one of your most explosive weapons over the last month of college football, and he needs to continue and remain as such as you go into the playoffs. Essentially, is what you got going on these next couple of weeks. I want to talk about Bobo right quick before we ultimately flip over to the defensive side of the football. I love that Mike Bobo was extremely basic on Saturday, while also doing things that good coordinators do to win football games. Let me explain. He showed a delayed running back swing screen early on. And the primary read was to throw the hitch away from the swing screen. They only put it in early on in the script to see how Georgia Tech was responding to the 2x1 or 3x1 rather, with the hitch on the backside, a couple of goes, and that swing screen, okay, to the tight end and Dejon Edwards out of the backfield. Couple series later, all right, they come right back to it. It's a 20-yard gain on 3rd and 11. They convert a third down. They ultimately go on that drive to ultimately score. Okay, these types of inklings, these types of tea leaves, good coordinating. Good coordinating even when you want to be basic. I thought that was really, really impressive. Let me give you another one. He noticed that Saturday, in the midst of the matchup, that when they went 4 by none, okay, when they put the tight end and trips to the field, Georgia Tech did some real funky stuff into the boundary, and they were outnumbered. They just didn't have enough football players over there, especially if we wanted to run counter back to the short side. So what did he do? He calls it. They hit it for a goddamn touchdown. Xavier Truss gets called for a hold. Hey, all good, fine, and dandy. The next time it's 3rd and 9, they get into a very similar set, identical set. Tech misaligns even worse on 3rd and 9. They call a check with me. They see that, hey, they're not going to fix it. They say, all right, 3rd and 9, doesn't matter. We're going to run counter because we know we got it licked. Okay, just minor in-game coordinating. Boom. Even when we're being vanilla, I know you're doing your job. I know you're working up there in the box. You're not just calling, hey, bing, 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 bang, bang, we're trying to get home. No, we're trying to still be a really, really efficient offense. And another example of this that, again, we can put it on tape because it's just offense. It's just what we do. It's what we've always done. It's not a new concept. It's not a new pass route. It's not a new run game scheme. It's not a new formation. He manipulated pace on Saturday. At times on Saturday, they ran up, immediately got on the ball, threw a tunnel screen to Dillon Bell, 25-yard explosive. There was a time in the red zone late in the fourth quarter or midway through the fourth quarter, your last scoring drive, where Tech's just been blitzing the ever-loving piss out of the middle of the field because you've been running the ball so well. He calls a little RPO kind of action to Dominic Lovett. It gets 9 yards, 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 1, right inside the 5. What do? You get right on the ball in a mush huddle, okay? And then you rush to the line of scrimmage. Georgia Tech can't get aligned correctly, and you run a basic little duo zone scheme run. Boom, bang your head on the goalpost for 6. These little bitty things in the midst of a game where you didn't want to show your future opponent anything, Bobo still found ways to be impressive in my mind as someone who, again, was studying them today. Same thing to me for Carson Beck. Really, really boring football game. 20 pass attempts, 13 and a half fewer than any other game this year for Carson. And somehow, some way, I left impressed. I left really impressed with the way that he scrambled on Saturday. He had 2 very, very key third down runs where he made guys miss, accelerated relatively quickly, got through a closing window, and ultimately, gave Georgia an opportunity to convert the sticks. But, we've also shown you for years now, Georgia quarterbacks doing a tremendous job of controlling things at the line of scrimmage and making sure that their, offense is in the proper call on Saturday. Do we have Murray? Mm-hmm. All right, let me get to these defensive things right quick because I still got a whole ton of things. Sorry, Murray. Hold on tight right quick. I know you want to freak out about the defense. I know you do. I know it's really, really easy to watch a football team rush for 230 yards on Saturday night and freak out because it's Georgia Tech. They're 6-6, whatever. Hey, is it okay to say that Georgia Tech's offense is really good? They're top 10 in the country in rushing yards per game, and you managed to hold them below their average? You played them better than anybody else. Also, don't you think you're being a little bit irrational? The fact that they gave up 23 points, by far their worst performance of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, if they were to allow 23 points per game all year, they'd still be a top 40 defense. Your worst performance defensively is better than 65% of the sport. So hold your horses. Calm down. Not that big of a deal. Also, they had 1 touchdown drive, 1, that started on their own end of the field. They had 2 total scoring drives that started on their own end of the field, and one of those started on the 48-yard line. They earned 10 points. They matriculated 13 points otherwise. It was not that big of a debacle defensively, in my opinion. There was some misfits that led to explosives in the run game, and we've talked about that. Explosives will ultimately lead to points on this Georgia defense this year, and that's exactly what happened Saturday night. Let's welcome our friend Aaron Murray into the show. Sorry for making the superstar hold back there. Was he looking a little anxious, Jay Will?
No, he looks a little all right. We got him on the screen now.
What up, Murray? How we doing?
Listen, I can always handle an audible. I'm always just I enjoy listening to your show. So like this is a normal thing for me. It just now I get the ability to then jump in and be a part of it. So all good.
Aaron Murray, certified ball knower. You got to love that, man. You got to love that. Certified friend of the show and certified listener of the show. So that's good stuff there. Hey, let's get your quick thoughts right quick. I know you're here to preview Bama. Everybody wants us to go ahead and chew the meat off the bone there. But what were your initial thoughts about Georgia Tech, and do you think there's any cause for concern just right off the bat?
It's a win. Yeah, hell, you won the football game. You're 12-0, third time, three straight times going 12-0 in the regular season. So you head into the game without your superstars, and you can say all you want that you're not going to look past Georgia Tech, that you're focused. It's a rivalry game, but when you don't got Brock and Ladd and Rara and Tate, I think there's something in the back of everyone's mind of like, let's just survive this game and get to next week. Like you may not outwardly say that, but I've been in that position. I've been in that game. Like, you're just in there to win it, get out, stay healthy, and get ready for the SEC championship. So they did that. They accomplished it. There was never a moment because I had all these damn Alabama fans all weekend just getting after me, kind of saying, look, your team can't even handle Georgia Tech. There wasn't a moment that I felt like Georgia was going to lose that football game. Not a single moment. Alabama, 99.9% chance of losing that game heading into that last play. So like completely different scenario. So I don't want Alabama fans trying to at me all week about that nonsense. You should have lost that game to Auburn. There was never a moment that Georgia was going to lose that game to Georgia Tech. So could there have been things that have been better? Yeah, but like offensive line looked dominant, running backs looked dominant. I thought the receivers played well. I thought Carson, not his best game, but was okay. Defensively, I like to see some guys win some one-on-one battles a little bit better.
Yeah.
I thought Warren did a good job winning some one-on-ones up front. Other than that, linebackers at times, eyes were in the wrong spot. Some of the misdirection got those guys kind of looking a little bit silly here or there, but you won the damn football game. So let's move on.
I'm glad you pointed out Warren. I thought he had the best game of his probably his career. Definitely season. And if it's his best game of the season, it's probably his best game of his career, considering who he's been playing behind. I've been talking about all year with him how I wish he would just unzip his feet. I wish he would just calm down just a tad when he defies blocks and gets behind the line of scrimmage. Except Saturday, all of his disruptive plays were like that, where he was just like, screw it, I'm going. So I've almost gotten to the point where with Warren, if I were his coach, I would just let him play. Did you play with anybody, Murray, where you were just like, hey, we can't overcoach this guy. We just got to let him play football?
Jarvis Jones.
Ooh.
I remember Jarvis when he was redshirting because he had the medical year. So he came in and he was on scout team for us. And we knew from the very first day in scout team, like, dude, this dude's special. And not to go a long story, but Jarvis and I were roommates in the All-American game back when we were seniors. And I was trying to convince him so hard to come to Georgia. I was obviously not a very good recruiter at the time. He goes to USC. He gets hurt. They won't clear him. We will clear him. So he transfers back home. And, we knew he was great from high school. I don't think he played a ton at USC. But like that first day in practice on scout team, every single day he whooped our butt. And you just knew, like in Todd Grantham's defense, letting him just go out there and be an athlete and just be disruptive and just like, see ball, go get ball, almost like a Harold Perkins-esque type player. And he did that, man. Like you knew, like he doesn't need a lot of coaching. He just needs to get out there and put some pads on.
Now, I know this is a football show. We're all football people. But we got a hooper on the stage here. And have you ever heard of the term DNP, coach's decision, Aaron Murray? Have you ever heard of that term?
Coach's decision?
Yeah, so there's a basketball term. It's basically when players sit out, they get labeled DNP, meaning did not play, and then they put a hyphen that just says coach's decision. Like the coach decided, hey, you're just not going to play tonight. You're healthy, everything's good. You normally would play in any other circumstances. Tonight, you're a DNP coach's decision. We got 82 of these sons of guns. Just go sit down on the sideline, go hang out, get healthy, rest up. We need you tomorrow night. We need you next week. We need you whenever. We just don't really need you tonight. I haven't seen a college football team do a DNP coach's decision, but I think we got the closest version of that Saturday with what Georgia did with Bowers and Lad McConkey and Robert and all of them.
Yeah, and they probably weren't healthy, but I guarantee you if that was the SEC championship game, those guys would have been playing.
I guarantee you if it was Tennessee, they would have been playing because they did the week before.
Maybe. Yeah, but you saw Brock get banged up, and I don't think Ladd played versus Tennessee, though, did he?
He tried.
Ladd did not.
First two series, came out, warmed up, had tape on his ankle, went out there, gave it a run, and then they were like, hey, we don't need you today, so we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, and Brock got a little bit gimpy there at some point in the game. I remember he got up and was like, hey, if it was a we need you now, I guarantee you probably all four of them are playing. But it wasn't that moment. So like I said, like this was a game where based on that, I knew it was like, damn, I wish I didn't put money on Georgia to cover that spread because you're those guys, and there's now a mentality in that locker room that we're just trying to skate by a little bit. So I don't have an issue with it. I really don't. And the beauty about Georgia football, they got depth.
Yeah.
And they got guys that can plug in, go out there and still win football games even with their twos. And that's just what Kirby's built. And I think in the long run too, as the portal's about to hit in a week from now, I think it opens up next Monday, Kirby can look at a lot of those guys that are kind of on the fence and say, you played a lot of football this year. Yeah. You got in there over the past 2 years and played a lot of snaps. Just wait your turn, and you're going to play even more snaps next year. And that's how you continue to build your roster and keep guys on that roster and not hit the portal.
The last couple of years, because Georgia's been playing for national title, assuming that's the case again this year, you haven't seen a ton of guys hit it immediately. They've been kind of waiting it out. Last year, I think it was Bill Norton. It was Eric Gilbert. And I think a corner hit the portal before the college football playoff run, but most of them, I think there were 16 total last year that ended up hitting the portal in total. 13 of the 16 ended up doing so after the championship parade. So, or after the final game, I should say. So I don't know how much activity you see, but then again, things have changed in the last 365 days. Spots are even more limited at some of these places. So you would imagine if the homes aren't ready solidified for a lot of these guys that have their eyes set on other places, they might need to go ahead and reserve a spot and go ahead and get in the portal and find their new home, or else they won't have one come January with how fast these things ultimately go. Murray, I asked Kirby about this. I'm curious your thoughts on it because I have my own. Jalen Milroe, I wonder where you put him in the discussion of, hey, this guy's a great scrambler, okay? When he drops back to pass, pulls it down, takes off, holy shit, that guy's scary, versus a quarterback that may have an elite background and film of a designed quarterback run team or an offense that is a designed quarterback run offense. My opinion and my film study tells me that Alabama tinkers with a little bit of quarterback run, but it's not the basis of their profile, nor is it the basis of what Jalen Milroe does. What are your mindset? What's your thoughts on Jalen Milroe's legs, I should say, on Saturday?
I think it's more used. It's more frustrating this way, honestly. At times, it's more used to improvise. It is. His biggest gains, it seems like, are third down when you think you have a good spine and they can kind of keep up, and he's faster than you think he is. And I think they did a good job, Gary and them, illustrating that during the game versus Auburn of, like, you may have a guy watching him, but then when he takes off, he's gone. And he's probably one of the most, if not the fastest guy in the football field. So it takes everyone's discipline. You can't just say, hey, defensive line, you guys can rush recklessly because we got, Javon Bullard spying him. We got a safety coming down, or we got an elite linebacker that has speed. You have to be disciplined both in your rush lanes and at the linebacking position, because it takes 4, 5, 6 guys to contain him in the pocket and make sure he doesn't get those explosive plays on third down. So, I don't see a ton of design run. It'll be interesting if they do that, because you've seen Georgia, especially this past week, be hurt a little bit with the design quarterback run, which most teams are, especially if you're that athletic. But no, it's been more of, hey, man, buy some time. Nothing's open. Let me run around the field and then go out there and get some yardage with my legs. So if Georgia can slow that down and be disciplined enough on both the first and second level, I think they are the most athletic team that Alabama has faced this season. So, I do want to give Jalen credit. He has improved tremendously from where he was last year to spring to the game versus Texas. But then let's also remind ourselves, who have they really played defensively? Yeah. Let's go through the lineup. South Florida, he didn't play that game, but Ole Miss doesn't have a defense. Mississippi State doesn't have a defense. A&M has a good defense and, didn't have a splashy game, but that's a good one. Yeah. Arkansas, not a great defense. Tennessee, not a great defense. LSU, not a great defense. Kentucky, terrible defense. Chattanooga, and Auburn's on a very good defense. I'm kind of torn. He has not faced a defense like Georgia, nor has Georgia, though, on the other end, faced a defensive backfield or a defense in general like Alabama. So this is a true how good is Georgia's offense moment versus a true how good is Alabama's offense. I trust Georgia's offense a little bit more than I do Alabama's. But, this is going to be an interesting game because both defensive backfields are pretty damn good.
I always like to study up before I ask questions like this because, as you would know, if you ask an uninformed football-related question to Kirby, he's going to let you know and let the room know that you're pretty stupid, immediately. So the first thing I did when I knew I was going to ask this, hey, is he a runner or is he a scrambler type of question, was I wanted to go study him real quick. And it's easy to do this. If you go watch the LSU game and just flip through every single offensive play. Within about a second to a second and a half, you're going to identify the difference between design run or drop back pass. And in the process of this, I confirmed my theory. Yes, indeed, he had 12 scrambles of his 20 total rushing attempts in that football game. 12 of them were either scrambles or sacks. 1 of them was a quarterback sneak. 7 of them were design runs. 4 of those were in the red zone. Okay, so in the red zone, you know that they're going to use their rushing quarterback as an additional hat just to balance the numbers. Okay, but it's just with the film completely confirmed what I ultimately thought was going to be, all right, this dude's definitely a scrambler, not necessarily a design and run game guy, even though they put that in the mix. But you're right. When he pulls the ball down, Murray, he's the most electric dude on the field. It's breathtaking. And Kirby talked about it today. He's the fastest guy on the field when he decides to run. But I think the key to not allowing that is to mush rush him, like really push the pocket. You can't get on different levels. You basically got to put his offensive line in his lap. That's when I've seen him this year kind of pull the ball down and kind of get real panicky with the football. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's all quarterbacks know. Like anytime you put pressure right in our face, it's always kind of a moment of, okay, I can't really see as well. Let me go east and west instead of being able to step up in the pocket. So like that's always a bitch for any quarterback. For me, Georgia, when I've seen Georgia at its best defensively is when they can do a lot on the back end. So they mix up the pitcher. And Georgia's done a great job. So I remember even, versus Clemson, was it 2 years ago? They brought pressure off the nickel. And, usually when you do that, it's a cover 3 look. So I'm thinking, hey, you're bringing, a Mike nickel. You're going to roll down the safety. It's cover 3 outside leverage. I'm going to hit a quick, skinny slant off it. We would always do like a, hey, takes two. Both guys come, side adjustment, throw a quick slant to your slot receiver. Well, Georgia actually rotated to what it would be a cover 2 look. Backside corner becomes a safety. Backside safety becomes a frontside safety. So that safety coming down is actually going to play inside leverage because he has outside help by the corner. Ended up being a pick. I think it was a pick 6 by Chris Smith. So like that's some of the stuff when you've seen Kirby and his staff be really creative with different coverages that a quarterback's not used to seeing. And I think that's something that you can get Jalen with this game of showing one thing pre-snap, rotating to something really late post-snap. And Georgia's got the speed. They've got the experience at the secondary. Like that stuff to me, like I still not 100% on does Jalen see the field extremely well from that 5 to 25 yard range? Can you steal a couple turnovers that way?
It's a good point. The chat has a good point as well. Murray, someone just confused you for Jordan Rogers, asked if you were the guy from The Bachelor. Hey, Jonathan, do you have something?
Or my brother.
Or your brother, that's right.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you this, Murray, because obviously you were there with Bobo in 2012 in the SEC championship game. Not trying to dig up bad memories for you or anything by that. But what do you think Bobo feels like this week, knowing that this is kind of like his chance at revenge against Alabama? I know he's faced against them in other places, but this is at Georgia in the SEC championship game. Just like kind of describe to me how you think Bobo's feeling this week.
Well, I think this has been a revenge tour for Bobo in general this season, has it not? Like this has been, for him, it's been the entire offseason. From the minute that Kirby hired Bobo, it was like, what the hell are we doing? Is this a lazy hire? We don't like Bobo. We hate his stupid draws and screens and blah, 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 blah. Just nonstop. And then all of a sudden he's up for assistant coach of the year. I think, what is he, a top 5 finalist right now? So yeah, he's a finalist for it. So you've seen this offense really flourish under Bobo. So I don't think this is just a one game situation where Bobo's looking to get revenge on Alabama. Like this has been Bobo's revenge tour from the minute he got hired, from the minute they played that first game of the season. This is just a continuation, possibly a cherry put on top of the entire thing if they're able to go out there and when they're able to go out there and beat Alabama. So like, will we be under some pressure? Yeah. But I think he's been able to, I think he has been under pressure this entire season. I think he's answered the bell. And I love what he's done with the offense this year. Hell, I wish we ran an offense similar to this when I was in school. Like we were basic as hell. And now you turn it on, man, and the amount of he does more shifts and motions.
Oh my God!
This year in one game than I did my entire 4 years playing quarterback at Georgia. In one damn game.
Are you telling me that offensive coaches and coaches in general can evolve over a decade and a half?
No, they can't. They just can't do it. It's crazy. I mean, tell you, I'm not going to do this because I'm too damn lazy. I got too many damn jobs. You know this. But, like, I swear we may have motioned 20 times in 4 years when I played. 20 total times. It was line up, play football. Line up, play football. And now it's almost every play. It's so
easy. It's so easy to add in. Like, hey, we're gonna break the huddle, come out in duos. We're gonna motion the trips. Just that's it. That's all they really do. They just give like one little indicator. Now, occasionally they'll scatter. They'll do a bunch of different but the base motions are just, hey, we're gonna go from 3x1 to 2x2. That's it.
Did you see the Washington? Did you see the Washington pre-snap shift this past? I think it was Washington this weekend. They shifted about 7 times before the snap. It was just like this guy over here, like it was like one, and then they just snapped it real quick. Running back ran up for a first down. Just getting the guys in the back end to have to communicate. Linebackers talking, turning, boom, snap. Everyone's out of position. Bam. I'll tell you this: they play defense for multiple reasons. One, they can't catch the ball as well, and two, they're just not as smart. Make those guys talk. Big advantage for the offense.
It is a long known fact. Offensive players are way smarter than defensive players just because of the terminology. I mean, our plays are paragraphs. Their plays are cards. Red 5. All right, ready, break. It's a little bit different. Kirby, you got something for him?
Spoken like a true offensive guy.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, my question, I don't know if it's as much of a question as it is an observation. The kind of hot topic right now is to compare Haynes King and Jalen Milroe just because, running quarterbacks, things such as that. But what do you think about Brady Cook as a comp more for Jalen Milroe in this game?
I would lean more Haynes, honestly. I think they're more of an electric runner. Like Haynes has the elite speed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean Haynes is like a 4.4 guy, maybe 4.5.
He was
Brady's probably like in the
10-3
4.6s. Yeah, like that's a different, like a guy that runs a mid 4.6 to a guy that's run like a low 4.5, mid 4.4. That's a different ball game.
Yeah.
Because a guy that runs a 4.6, you can put linebackers on him. Guys that run 4.4s, you got to put safeties on them. So I think that is more of a realistic comp. And because I think Brady's a better passer. Brady's improved tremendously this year throwing the football. Like I don't doubt Brady throwing it from, you know, a 5-yard hitch to a dig, a dagger, to a post, to a go. Where I think Haynes obviously is turnover prone a little bit. Jalen's been turnover prone at times. He's improved this year a little bit. They've also molded the offense to be a little bit easier for him to read it. So I would say more of a Haynes comp than the other one.
I split field zone them the whole game. I don't think I try to play man coverage against Alabama.
No.
I think
that's what I'm saying. Like, can you create some different like 5-man pressures with different looks on the back end to confuse him while also getting pressure? Like that's what I would do.
That's what I'm thinking. And Georgia does a really, really good job of not just – they don't play symmetrical defenses ever. It's one half of the field is playing this type of zone coverage. The other half of the field is playing this type of zone coverage. So as a quarterback, now I'm processing twice as many things, okay? And when eyes are looking at me, I don't feel as compelled to take off and run. And I also have to now throw with anticipation. I have to throw into windows. I'm not just throwing to spots like I would against man coverage. I would make him fully read everything on top of being required to do the quarterback designed run game that I think Alabama's going to have to do this week more than they have all year. Again, going back to that LSU game was the most he's ran all year. Even then, it was only 6 or 7 designed quarterback runs. I think they're going to have to add him in almost maybe double-digit times on Saturday to account to create rushing success. Because despite what people say about this offensive line, Murray, they really haven't reset the line of scrimmage very well this year. This Alabama offensive line has not bullied people like we thought they were going to.
Well, I've never heard Alabama talk so much in the offseason. You know, that should have been concerning for a lot of people that they, you know, kept talking about how tough we're going to be and how they're not great in pass pro. I have seen games though where I'm like, okay, that offensive line looks pretty physical. Like I remember a couple games, like the right guard looked pretty damn good, and I think it's Booker.
Yeah,
Booker's either right or left.
Booker and Latham play next to each other. They're NFL guys.
Yeah, I think the right side. Like I was like, man, that right side is pretty dominant. Like they can move some people, but it hasn't been consistent. Like, and I'll say this too when it comes to the game this weekend. Because it's always, I know a lot of people get freaked out, and hell, I got freaked out too a little bit. Just to be honest, it's Alabama. Like it's Nick Saban. Like you should be a little bit nervous. If you ain't nervous, it doesn't mean much to you. Like these are the games that you kind of have a couple restless nights, but like that's the excitement. That's when we play the damn game. But then you have to remind yourself, like if we go position by position, where is Alabama have the advantage? Quarterback, Georgia. Running backs, Georgia. Offensive line, Georgia. Tight end, Georgia. Receivers, Georgia. There's not a spot on that offense that I give Alabama the advantage. Defensively, I maybe front seven, Alabama. Close, but Alabama. I would say backfield probably split.
Yeah. Your safeties are
I'd say
better
backfield
than them.
split.
Their corners are better than yours.
Yes.
That's
Agreed.
you bring it up. So it was. I wasn't going to ask you. I was going to ask these guys, but I'll ask you. I know you beat them for a national title. I know you did. But do you still feel like as a Georgia fan, you guys wear the red and black. Y'all love the red and black. You live and die with them. Do you still feel like little brother here? Do you feel confident? Is it still Bama? Do you still feel like there's ghosts in the closet or skeletons in the closet? Like, you don't feel confident, do you?
No, you can feel confident, but there's still that lump in the throat. You know, it's kind of like when I do a game and the lights are about to turn on and I'm in the booth and I feel real confident about my open, and all of a sudden I hear my producer in my ear saying, "All right, you're on camera in 5, 4." I'm like, I need some water. You know, like, but once again, like, you prepare hard for this moment, and so there's always going to be nerves, and there should be. Like, that roster is still, I think that they were number 1 this offseason. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Yeah, them and Ohio State for blue chip ratio. Like, they have more 4 or 5 stars than Georgia does. Like, they're freaking talented. They're 11-1. It's Nick Saban. It's the greatest coach of all time. So, like, yeah, they can beat your butt. Like, I was confident. I remember 2 years ago before the SEC championship game, I said, Georgia, you're better than them. You're better than them. Fans, you walk into that stadium with your chest up, and you feel you own them. And even Alabama fans didn't really show up. Like, the stadium was like 60, 70% Georgia fans. Like, even Alabama fans know Georgia was better. And Alabama beat the brakes off them by 2 scores. So, man, anything can happen when you're facing Nick Saban in Alabama.
That's a great point. Do you want to give him 3?
Yeah,
Let's give him 3. All right, Murray. I need to see some participation here. I need to see some clapping. We'll actually let you go first today, Murray, so no one steals your stuff. Continuing the theory of Georgia fans being a little bit weary of this matchup, what are 3 things? Give me 3 things that scare you about this matchup with Alabama.
3 things that scare me. 1, Milroe's legs. 2, Nick Saban's the head coach.
Okay.
And 3, explosive plays down the field.
They have been really. I've been shocked. Hold on, first of all. Hey, Aaron Murray, give him 3. I have been shocked by this offense's ability to convert every single, like, seemingly 3rd and 17 that they faced the last 7 weeks. This dude throws the 25-yard across the field comeback as well as anybody in college football right now.
He's got a great arm.
Rip the damn thing, dude.
Oh, yeah. He's a big kid, and he's got a big arm. Like, that's not an issue. Like I said, like, the 5 to 25, I want to see him complete more. You know, but the 25 plus, ooh, baby, he can throw it with the best of them. Where's he going? Does he got a potty break? Does he got a potty break?
No, I had to get a football. Have you seen the way he throws the ball? Have you seen the way he holds the ball?
So, I know he
he's
throws
like
it a little
nosy.
bit unique.
He's super nosy. His index finger's like on top of the point of the football, Murray.
He must have got some big old hands. I know some guys do that.
I don't know how. The nose of the ball would go straight down into the ground every single time I threw it. I don't know how he does it.
That's why you don't play quarterback.
Bro, I promise you right now I can throw it better than you. Right now, today.
No chance.
I promise you. Let's go out.
No
Hey, we'll take cameras. I'm so confident in this. We'll take cameras.
Come on, whenever you want. Whenever
you want, big boy.
I'm ready.
Oh,
I got my Theragun right here. I'm just gonna.
You got that's for golf, bro. Don't act like that's for you throwing
Why
footballs.
Why is a Theragun for golf?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have one.
That's when you know you're old. I do my radio shows every day, and I'm just like on the Theragun, just like working out all the knots from getting my butt handed to me.
Give me 3 things that scare you about Alabama.
So Murray kind of hinted at him, but Jalen Milroe is playing much better football than he was at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's able to extend plays with his legs, not in the sense of he's a running quarterback, but more like what C.J. Stroud did in the Peach Bowl last year, which was he extended the plays when he needs to. I think that's what his biggest threat is to me. This is probably the best defense Georgia's played all season. So this is going to be your biggest test offensively. I know the offenses look great, but we'll see when you go up against one of the toughest defenses in the country. And then third, it's still Alabama. It's still Nick Saban. It's still something that should worry you just because this team has haunted you for so many years. So,
hey, Christian Kirby, give him 3. My bad.
What are you over there cheesing about?
I'm reading the chat. The chat is going crazy about me and Murray getting into this throwing contest. Anyways, go ahead.
My first one is they're the ones seeking revenge this time. They're not the one trying to get that win back from the last time. It's Alabama trying to avenge that loss that you handed them in the national title. So I think that alone kind of puts some fear in your eyes just a little bit, knowing that they're the ones seeking after you, it feels like this time. They have game changers in the back end. You know, the strongest point of Georgia's offense this year has been Carson Beck, what the offense can do in the passing game. Brock Bowers, all those guys, Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, really good football players. So I think that's something you have to fear as well. And then not only is Jalen Milroe playing his best football, Alabama in general has been playing their best version of football the last month or so. And so is Georgia, though. Georgia has played their best version of football this last month, but they're coming up against you and they're hitting their stride.
Hey, Jay Will, give him 3. So that pretty much takes every single one of mine as we expected to happen. But you mentioned the back end. That was my number one. This is the first football team I have felt like confidently can cover you and cover you well. It's not just the corners. Malachi Moore, the nickel defender that they have as a fifth-year senior, I thought he was an NFL football player the last couple of years on that defense. So to see him coming back and playing even more for college football at that star position lets me know that they're going to have something for you in terms of Brock Bowers, whether it be high-low in him with Malachi Moore and Caleb Downs or Arden Key, whatever the combination may be. They have the personnel to be able to match up and cover you for the first time all year. No one's been able to say that this year. I think the team that's been closest to it was probably Missouri. I think Missouri's got 2 NFL caliber type corners. But outside of that, no one's really even dared to try. Almost everyone else has been conceding defeat in terms of playing soft zone coverage against you guys all year. So that would not necessarily scare me, but it would be something I'm paying attention to going in the football game. Like, yeah, they can line up and play single high or 2 high man coverage if they really wanted to and force you to add bodies into the box by running the football on Saturday. You guys all mentioned Jalen Milroe. He is not only he's the most electric is the word that I have. Like when you turn the tape on, it's palpable. You can feel it. No one really judges his speed or his twitch correctly. Whole lot of bad angles taken on this guy because people can't judge him. They don't know like what it really feels like until they're in the midst of it. And at that point, it's too daggum late. And the third and final one for me, if you're going to beat Georgia, you got to be able to stand in the ring and punch for 4 quarters, which requires depth. Not just depth on the offensive line, defensive line, depth everywhere. You got to have depth on special teams against this football team because you can't afford to be critically outmatched in any portion of this game. Hey, give them 3. All right. What are the keys to the game, Murray? What do you got?
Keys to the game, I would say defensively, I would limit Jalen's legs. I mean, if you're a Georgia fan, you would love a couple turnovers. Like, can you create a couple turnovers? Like, go back to Texas' success. Like, how did Texas win the football game on the road there in Tuscaloosa? They got some turnovers. And then they didn't turn the ball over themselves. How did Michigan beat Ohio State this weekend? A close matchup, 2 rivalries, 2 elite football teams. Ohio State had 2 turnovers. Michigan didn't. So, like, anytime you're in a matchup with 2 teams that are, similar talent level, that are on this elite, on this big of a stage, who doesn't make the big mistake? And both teams have done a good job this year of taking care of the football. Like, you just can't give up easy touchdowns. Like, you can't fumble the ball in the first damn play and stuff like that. So, like, can you win the turnover battle? That's going to be key. Can you limit Jalen to forcing him to be a pocket quarterback? Don't do what he did. Don't allow him to do what he did, like first LSU, converting a bunch of third downs with his legs. Like, to me, those are the big things I'll be looking at.
Would you contemplate, if it gets bad enough, would you contemplate maybe playing like they've shown multiple times this year playing a 3 safety look? Would you contemplate like sacrificing one of those safeties and just like putting them in the middle of the field as a spy at some point if it got that bad?
You should run the Big 12 3-3-5 defense with that middle of the safety who kind of comes down the field like that.
Yeah.
It's a tough defense, man, especially if you haven't seen it. But I don't know how much you want to do that just like week before the game.
They did the week of LSU in 2019. It didn't work out very well, but they did change a bunch that week.
Well, that's a different offense, though.
Very much so.
That's a very different offense with a bunch of guys playing the NFL. To me, I look more at the defensive line in this game for Georgia.
Yeah.
Like, this is a game where everyone's kind of been doubting you. Like, you can't stop the run. You can't win one-on-ones. You can't, create an edge on the outside, which is a mixture of the defensive line and nickel and linebackers fitting up properly. But, like, those guys have to have their best game of the season.
And I thought, like we already talked about Warren. I thought they did. I thought Warren had his best game of the year last week. We already talked about that. How have you seen this offense progress, Murray? Because I saw something on film today that I want to talk to you about, but I want your opinion on what you've seen this kind of offense, change, or how Alabama has developed throughout the year.
I mean, for me, it's changed to what Milroe does and kind of how they want to run the offense. It's less of, Tommy Rees saying, this is what I was used to doing at Notre Dame. It's now of, what can I do to protect my quarterback? And also understanding, like, what is this offense going to be? This is not an offense that is going to be super efficient, just dinking and dunking. Like, it's a big play offense. Like, that's how they survive. That's how they win. Like, they win because you think you got them in a 3rd and long situation, and then they create an explosive play either on the ground or in the air. Like, this isn't a, 7-yard gain, 8-yard gain, 2-yard gain, 15-yard game. This is like an offense that is, you kind of accept that we're going to have a sack. We're going to have a negative play. And like you said, it's a 3rd and 15, and Jalen's just going to somehow make it right with his legs or throw the ball down the field. So I don't know. Like, it's not to me like this incredible offense. They just somehow find a way to make plays in big-time moments, like 3rd down situations, red zone situations, end-of-game situations. They're down by Auburn, boom, all of a sudden a guy leaks wide open on a go ball, and it's a 7-yard touchdown. So, like, they're living and dying by the big play. And I just think at some point when you face a team that's good enough to stop you, which I don't think there's been a defense, like I talked about earlier, that can do that, it's going to hurt you a little bit. So I don't know if it's evolved like a ton. It's just I hate using the word lucky, but they've just benefited from some big-ass plays down the field.
Yeah, really leaned in on talent and letting players kind of, get them out of situations. I told you, I charted every play today against LSU real quickly, just went through and tried to watch what was going on. And one thing I noticed, Aaron, and I think Georgia doesn't allow teams to do this. They normally get after the guy if this happens. But every single time I watch them drop back to pass, 3-step standard drop, 3-step standard drop, 3-step standard drop. And what I have found nowadays in football is if you let a quarterback stand there 32, 33 times and you let him drop to the same spot every single time, eventually teams are going to start hunting that launch point. This team does zero manipulation of the launch point, Murray. They don't roll him. They don't heavy boot action this guy. They don't do anything. They just say, all right, if we're going to throw the ball, standard 3-step drop, and at any point, if you don't like it, just pull it down, find an alley, and go. I don't think you can win successfully over and over again against a defensive coordinator like Glenn Schumann if you're going to tell me 35 of the 65 snaps, this is where that guy's going to be. I don't think that's a key to success for Alabama. I think that's something to watch Saturday, where Georgia at some point is going to feel like they're teeing off on this guy because he's staying in one spot.
Well, that's what Texas did.
Yep.
All right. Like, once again, like it's like a little bit of a broken record, but like Texas was the last defense this team has faced that actually had talent not even all 3 levels, because like Texas DBs are a little bit suspect at the time. Like, they've gotten better on the back end, but like their strength is in the front 7. So a little bit reverse of what Georgia is, but Georgia still is, pretty darn good, that front 7. Like, let's not sleep on those guys up front. So, like, this isn't a game where you can just sit back there and think you're going to get 4 or 5 seconds to throw the football. If they do, then Georgia may be in trouble, because I don't care how good you are in the back end. If any quarterback gets that much time, they're going to eventually make some big plays. Yeah, and that's what they've banked on. Like, at some point they banked on, we're going to make enough big plays, and our defense is good enough to keep it low scoring that our big plays will somehow trump that.
Yeah, like you said, they're a very boomer bust offense. Not a lot of – it's like run, 60-yard bomb attempt. Run, 20-yard comeback. And it's just we're going to live and die off chunk plays. And going up against a defense like Georgia, who for the last 7 years has been in the top 10 in explosive plays allowed on the defensive side of the football, it's just there's a lot of, issues in that type of recipe for success. I didn't prep you for this one, so I'll go first. Who has the biggest advantage, the biggest tilt in this football game, and where is it? Okay. In my opinion, Georgia's ability to run the football without, requiring the quarterback to account for hats. Just standard, line it up, no gimmicks, let's play football, who runs the ball the best. I think Georgia is substantially better at that than Alabama has proven to be this year. And if you don't believe me, find me a box score that looks like what Alabama had done to them against Texas A&M. When a real front six stood in there and boxed with them, watch what happened. Okay, I haven't seen that happen to Georgia this year, and I think that's where the massive advantage is here. I think, Alabama's got a slight advantage at DB. I think Alabama's got a slight advantage at interior defensive line. But with regards to whose offensive line can take over this football game, Georgia has a substantially large advantage, in my opinion, Murray.
Yeah, and I just think of elite defense in the past, like even Georgia. Like think of Georgia the past 2 years. What has given them issues? It's teams that have really good talent on the outside, teams that can throw the football. So I know Alabama is definitely by far the more talented defense, but not by far, but corner-wise, they're more talented at the corner position. And I love our guys, especially Kamari. Kamari's had a great year. Tyke's been incredible at the nickel spot. Well, I saw something today, and there's like 4 or 5 of Alabama players are projected first-rounders. 2 of those corners, 2 defensive ends. So, there's plenty of talent on that side of the football. But going back to my original thought, what has given Georgia problems? Teams that have multiple good receivers and a talented quarterback. It's still a college game, and I don't care how good you are at DB. If there's 3 or 4 guys that can roll out the receiving position and a capable quarterback, that part of the game is still going to bite you in the ass. So, I don't want to just say, hey, Georgia, run the ball, 30 times and you're going to win the football game. If Brock and Ladd and Rara and Lovett and Bell are healthy, that's 5-6 guys that I don't care how good you are at DB. You don't have enough guys that can cover all those guys, especially when Carson can distribute the ball the way Carson distributes it. It's not just one guy he locks in on. He'll have 10, 15 guys make catches in the game if he has to. So I think this is a game, too, where they're going to try to run it, but this is a game where if Carson can be as efficient as he's been all year, making guys, finding the right guy in the right matchup, he can have a pretty special game.
All right, Murray, we won't talk to you before the end of the week. So who do you got?
I got Georgia. Was it 5-point spread? I think Alabama. I think it's a 3-point game.
Yeah.
I think it's a close game, man. I think this is a, down to the wire. I think Georgia wins it with the ball in their hand up 3. I don't think it's Alabama driving. I think Georgia,
I like that.
Can kind of pull like a Texas. I think they can. This is when Georgia's 0-3 in that stadium, or in Atlanta, not just that stadium, in Atlanta versus Alabama. I think nothing would be sweeter than you win a football game, ball in your hand, and you just run out the clock. I kind of feel that in my bones happening Saturday.
I like it. He is Aaron Murray. He is the all-time leading passer, in the SEC. Hey, any inklings on if Rodgers is going to stick in the SEC?
He did come up to me after the game. I had their game 2 weeks ago, and we dapped me up. He said, "Hey, your records are safe." I was like, "Yes."
Ooh, little YouTube nug
Could've
right
lied,
here on
though.
Mississippi State football if you like it. Hey, Murray,
he could
go
have been
ahead.
lying to me. He could have been lying to me.
Plug everything you need to plug, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Let me get my list out real quick.
Give him the solo shot, baby. Give him the
Are
solo
you
shot.
coming with us on Friday?
Keith hit me up about it. I don't know if Walton's playing Camden at Walton, so I might be going to that football game despite how much fun the Players Lounge is going to be having Friday night downtown in Atlanta. But Murray, Cobb County, not far from Buckhead, so it might be a little it might be a little double play situation. You know what I mean?
If you want to come out, you're more than welcome to come out there. So we'll start with the Players Lounge. A lot of good shows this week. We actually just shot 3 of our player shows tonight, so go check that out. Javon, Malachi, Jackson Meeks, Makai, they're great shows. Plus you get the Letterman show. Friday night, though, if you're in Atlanta, Friday night, Buckhead Ivy, me, Noshawn, Ben Jones, TK, Brandon Boykin, probably about 4 or 5 other Lettermen. We're going to get some Alabama guys, too. We'll be doing a couple live shows, food, drinks, hanging out from 8 to 10. That is in Buckhead, the Ivy Buckhead in Atlanta. Come hang out. We'll get the weekend started off the right way. And then, obviously, Snaps, ESPN, Sirius, all the other stuff.
I watch a ton of high school football. I don't muck it up with a lot of Georgia Letterman that often.
Come on, baby.
It is becoming something a little more common in my life nowadays, though, so that's pretty cool. Hey, Aaron, I always appreciate you coming on, buddy. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Y'all have a great week. See y'all.
Yeah, man, no doubt. Hey, I'm going to call it right there an hour in on this show. There's a bunch of people watching right now. Before you head out, please do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button, okay? If you liked anything that you saw today, and if you're a newcomer to our channel, guess what? We're here every single Monday through Thursday, live, 8 o'clock through 10 o'clock, okay? We have a whole nother hour of national college football content coming up in just a matter of minutes. So make sure you're sticking around to the channel. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, and make sure you're checking us out on that NBR hour, that national hour. I love you. We'll talk to you in a minute.